Hi everyone! In this video, we will explore the Fetch API,
What is fetch?
a powerful tool that allows you to make HTTP requests in JavaScript. Let's break it down. The fetch function expects two parameters, request object or simply a string containing the URL, and optional argument to configure the request. As an example, I will be using free API called JSON placeholder to return some dummy to-do list items. So if you provide just the URL with no extra configurations, you will make a simple GET request. Fetch is promise-based, which means that it is asynchronous and returns a promise which is fulfilled with a response object representing the server's response. However, there is an important detail, but before we cover it, let's switch to async await syntax to make the code more readable. Let's create a synchronous function called makeCallout, inside which we will use await fetch. Alright, so now we have our response, and you might expect that we are ready to start working with it. However, that's not entirely true just yet. What we get immediately is a key metadata, the status code, headers, and other response details. But the body itself isn't directly usable at this point. It is returned as a readable stream, which means that data may still be coming in. This design allows the browser to start processing the response before the entire body is downloaded, which is especially useful for handling large payloads. But it also means that if you want to work with the actual data, you need to consume that stream first. There are different methods to handle different types of data, blob, JSON, text. But in most cases, including ours, you will be working with JSON, so let's use the dedicated method to parse the response. And here's the important part. This operation is also asynchronous and returns a promise. That's why we also need to await for it to finish. A lot of people get confused, like why do we need to parse JSON asynchronously? The key detail here is that parsing itself doesn't begin until the entire response body has been received. And since the body is a stream and may still be arriving over the network, the .json method must wait for all the data to load before it can parse it. And that's why it is asynchronous. Even if you are dealing with a tiny response which was returned immediately, you still interact with the body as a stream. It is just that in small responses, the stream might already be fully received by the time you access it. Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at request configuration options. There are a lot of them: headers, cache settings, cross-origin behavior mode, etc. Let's say that we want to make a post request to insert a new to-do item. First, let's create this item and store it in some variable. Okay, so we already saw the default HTTP method is get, so now we need to specify that we want to use post method. Of course, in addition to that, we want to provide the value for request body, which is in our case a new item that we are inserting. Let's also specify content type as JSON inside our headers. Okay, looks like we are all set, so let's hit it. As you can see, it works. JSON placeholder API doesn't really create any new items on the server, but it returns the element you've added with the fake ID to mimic the behavior of the real insert operation. As you can see, we get the ID, so the request was successfully processed. And that is Fetch API, a great tool to quickly make all kinds of HTTP requests. If you enjoyed this brief introduction, please leave a like, a comment, and of course subscribe for more. Bye!